A girl 1 meter 60 centimeters tall, with an average figure, cannot be called beautiful or cute, but attracts many men who want to date her. The strange thing is that all these men, when in contact with her, mysteriously leave this world. Their tragedy all originates from Ueda Miyuki. She was born in December 1972 and lives in Tottori Prefecture, Japan. She was a waitress in a small restaurant, then moved to work as a waitress at a bar in the northeast of the Chugoku region. And this is the coastal region in northern Japan and is the prefecture with the smallest population in the country with about 200,000 people. One of the famous tourist attractions and symbol of the prefecture is the Tottori sand dunes. The second largest sand dunes in Japan with an area of about 1,800 hectares. Here, Ueda Miyuki rented a blue house to live, less than 1 kilometer from the Tottori sand dunes. The surrounding houses are quite far apart, because of the low population density and extremely peaceful atmosphere. After all, how attractive is Miyuki? Why can she capture the hearts of the men who have come into contact with her? You are following the mysterious case of a Japanese woman who murdered 6 lovers in a row. Revealing the horrifying cause on the Thrilling Story channel. And as usual, if this story leaves an impression on you, leave a like, click to follow the channel and turn on the notification bell to update the most classic cases. The story begins with the first case, on a day in May 2004. On the street in Tottori, someone discovered a man who had been run over by a train and showed no signs of survival. Immediately after, the police identified the man. He was Furugawa. In 2001, Furugawa met Ueda Miyuki at a bar and the two began living together about 2 years later. After checking, the police did not find anything else suspicious at the scene. The police concluded that this was a suicide. 3 years after this incident happened, one day in August 2007, the man who lived with Miyuki, Takeda, unfortunately passed away at the age of 27. 6 years ago, Takeda also helped her take care of her children who were her illegitimate children. According to Shinichi, Takeda's brother, every month Miyuki took all of Takeda's salary, and she even forced Takeda to borrow more money for her. He could not bear the humiliation, so he ran away and returned home. After returning, Takeda told his family that he had been living like a slave. But Miyuki did not stop there. She went to the house to force Takeda to come back and live with her. Regarding Takeda's death, Takeda's brother told the police that his younger brother did not know how to swim, so it was impossible for Takeda to have gone swimming and drowned. According to Miyuki, Takeda's purpose that day was simply to go to the sea to pick up seashells to play with the children. But he unexpectedly had an accident. Because no injuries or stimulants were found on the victim's body, the police also ended the investigation and concluded that Takeda died of an accident. One day in February 2008, a year after the previous incident, someone found a man hanging from a tree in the mountains of Tottori Prefecture and reported it to the police. The police arrived shortly after and determined that the man had passed away. The scene was covered in snow and there were only one type of footprints. The authorities were able to immediately identify the victim because he was a police officer in Tottori Prefecture. The victim was Fujita, 41 years old. A year before the incident, he went to a bar to investigate the case, and then met Ueda Miyuki while she was working there. Although Fujita already had a wife and children, he still frequently visited Miyuki. The two maintained a lover's relationship. Ueda Miyuki did not know what she did to make Fujita fall in love with her. Always listening to her. Later, Fujita's affair was discovered by his wife and caused a stir in the police station where he was working. Fujita was warned by the police's internal department because of his work attitude, emotional problems, and financial problems. After being examined by the forensic department, because nothing suspicious was found in Fujita's case, the police concluded that he had committed suicide. 1 year after this incident, one day in April 2009, on the coast of Kirato Town, Tottori Prefecture, the body of a man was discovered again. This person is Yoshub, 47 years old and works as a truck driver. A year ago at the bar, he also met Ueda Miyuki when she was working there and then they started dating. Miyuki told him about how she was having a hard time taking care of her children, and that she was under a lot of financial pressure from her family, so her life was quite difficult. After hearing this, Yoshub felt sorry for her and lent her $50,000. She immediately wrote an IOU. A few days later, she went to Yoshub's apartment and cooked him lunch. After eating, Yoshub left home and drove to work. On the way, for some unknown reason, his vision gradually blurred, leading to a traffic accident that damaged his car. Fortunately, no one was injured. When he returned home that night, Yashub drank a can of beer given to him by Miyuki and fell asleep. When he woke up, he found the blanket on fire, and part of the wall in the house was also burned. Neighbors discovered the incident and reported it to the police. Firefighters quickly arrived to extinguish the fire. Yashub was taken to the hospital for emergency treatment due to excessive inhalation of toxic gas. Fortunately, his life was not in danger. After a few days in the hospital, he returned home. At this time, the Toktori police were at his house to investigate the incident. Yashub searched around the house and reported the damage to the police. Among the missing items was a promissory note that Miyuki had written with a debt of $50,000. Not long after, Yashub discovered that Miyuki had deceived him and that she was dating multiple people at the same time. Extremely angry and hurt, Yashub demanded that Miyuki immediately pay back the money he had borrowed before. But the promissory note had disappeared. Miyuki did not want to pay the money at all, but still agreed with Yashub to pay it back soon. Not long after, Yashube's body was found on the beach. The forensic doctor discovered that Yashube's body contained sedatives. In addition, there was a large amount of sand in his lungs. Normally, a drowning person would not be able to inhale that much sand. This incident caused the police to no longer consider it an accident, but instead determine it as a murder case. 6 months after the above incident, one day in October 2009, a shop owner named Enzen was found dead from drowning. The location of the discovery was on the Mani River, in the Tottori area. This area was 4 kilometers from the victim's house. The strange thing was that at the location where the body was discovered, the river was only 20 centimeters deep. Enzen could not have accidentally drowned in this water level. After being examined by the forensic doctor, Enzen's face was covered with wounds and his body contained sleeping pills. Therefore, the police concluded that this was not a normal drowning case. Enzen was the owner of an electronics store in Tottori Prefecture. A few months earlier, he had sold $1,000 worth of devices but had not received the money. According to the investigation, the buyer of these devices was Ueda Miyuki. After receiving the goods, she immediately sold them to get the money. She had planned for a long time to avoid paying the owner of the electronics store, and that was the cause of the incident. A year after this incident, another man mysteriously died. This man was named Taniguchi, 58 years old. After being unemployed at home, he lived on government benefits. Taniguchi lived very close to Ueda Miyuki and was a regular customer at the bar where she worked. The relationship between the two was not bad. One time, Taniguchi went out in Miyuki's car. When he was approaching the Tottori train station, he accidentally collided with another car. Miyuki asked Taniguchi to compensate her with $10,000. Although their relationship was unclear, Taniguchi once gave Miyuki a key to his house. She could enter his house at any time. Taniguchi also sometimes helped Miyuki take care of her children. Occasionally, Miyuki asked Taniguchi to give her money, and she also took away her savings book and monthly allowance from the government. One evening, Taniguchi suddenly had a stroke, causing him to lose consciousness. The next morning, Taniguchi was transferred to the hospital, but when he arrived, he had stopped breathing. The doctor said he could not be saved. The forensic doctor discovered sedative ingredients in his body. Taniguchi, 58 years old, had chronic heart disease and occasionally used sedatives. It was difficult to determine whether his death was related to the sedatives. In the end, the doctor concluded that he died of illness. The conclusion is that he died of illness. All of the above cases involved men around Ueda Miyuki. What ultimately led to their deaths? To find the answer, let's start with Ueda Miyuki. She was born in December 1973 in Kurayoshi Town, Tottori Prefecture, Central Japan. Her family has 4 members. In addition to her parents, Miyuki also has an older brother. Her father was a man of few words, and her mother lived a very dissolute life. So she was often ridiculed by others. Ever since she was in elementary school, Miyuki was a very naughty student. She often vandalized neighbors' houses and stole things. After graduating from high school, Miyuki studied nursing at a local school. But she had a habit of lying and violating ethics and discipline, so she was expelled from school. After that, Miyuki started working as a factory worker. She also worked as an office worker, but each job could not last long. Later, Miyuki went to Osaka, a province 200 kilometers away from home. For her, this was the city of her dreams. Here she met her husband Aya. a soldier, and they got married, but the marriage later fell apart. At the age of 23, she divorced her husband and returned to her hometown in Tottori Prefecture and worked at a restaurant near Tottori Chicken. Not long after, Miyuki met her second husband, an office worker. After getting married, they had a son and a daughter. To take care of their family life, the two had to borrow money from relatives to buy a small restaurant and run the business together. It was thought that the marriage with her second husband would be peaceful, but Miyuki really liked to socialize with men and she had an affair. In 2004, Miyuki divorced her second husband. The restaurant could no longer continue and was forced to close. At this time, she became a single mother and had to raise 4 children. This was not easy and cost a lot of money. Miyuki found a job as a waitress at a bar in Tottori City. In her spare time, she also did some extra work as a cleaner. Miyuki was not a hard worker. She could not keep doing this job for a long time. For her, this job was too slow to make money, so over time she began to approach men for money. In the eyes of others, Miyuki was not a beautiful woman, but this did not stop her from approaching men. She took advantage of her job at the bar to get to know many people. Some of them were married, while the rest was still single. Miyuki had a very special skill, which was writing letters. These letters were often filled with sweet words that she wrote for gentlemen. In this way, she was able to approach many rich people. In December 2007, Miyuki, then 34 years old, met Anton, a car salesman. They started dating. Anton was a married man with a child. After only 4 months of dating, Miyuki lied that she was pregnant with his child and asked Anton for $100,000 in child support. Indeed, this was a large sum of money. Anton could not immediately get that amount of money, so he could only give up his job and family to live with Miyuki and take care of her children. Anton was a man with a gentle personality. At work, he was a good car salesman and was loved by everyone. But he was forced to give up this job while living with Miyuki, having to do a lot of housework and taking the children to school. He always believed that Miyuki was pregnant with his child and had no doubts at all. He even gave her all of his savings, $40,000. As time passed, Miyuki finally couldn't hide it any longer because she wasn't pregnant. She told Anton that she had taken diet pills and accidentally had a miscarriage. Miyuki never did housework or cooked. The children's daily meals were either bread from the convenience store or rice with fruit from the store. She didn't clean up, but there were 3 dogs and 5 cats in the house. Therefore, the house always smelled bad and the children grew up in such a bad environment. Although Miyuki wasn't really pregnant at first. After living with Anton for a while, she became pregnant and gave birth to another child, adding to the 4 children she already had. Now she had to raise 5 children. However, who the father of the last child was, perhaps even she didn't know. With the responsibility of taking care of 5 children on her shoulders, this did not stop Miyuki from continuing to flirt with others. She must have been a master of time management. Her sole purpose in doing this was to make money because she was having financial difficulties. At this time, she met Eizu Ando and the 2 of them committed several scams together. Eizu pretended to go to a farm machinery company in Sayaku town, bought 2 tractors and a rice planter on credit, but he had no intention of paying back the money. He then sold 3 pieces of farm machinery to others to make money. The police investigated and followed Eizu and Miyuki while they were living together. Both were eventually arrested. The investigation revealed that Miyuki was involved in at least 8 scams with a total amount of nearly $70,000. She was also involved in 6 murders. As for Eizu, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for fraud. In February 2010, the police seized evidence with the charge of intentional murder against Miyuki. However, of the 6 murder cases, only the 4th case involving Yasube and the 5th case, the Enzen case, had sufficient evidence. In court, the remaining 4 cases were dismissed due to insufficient evidence. In September 2012, the case was brought to trial at the Tottori court. Ueda Miyuki was charged with 2 counts of intentional murder, but the defendant Miyuki refused to plead guilty in court. So the case was re-examined. In December of that year, the Tottori court ruled that the defendant Ueda Miyuki was guilty of 2 counts of intentional murder. Not accepting the verdict, Ueda Miyuki filed an appeal. 5 years later, in July 2017, the Supreme People's Court heard the appeal and rejected all appeals, upholding the original verdict. Miyuki did not accept the verdict and decided to appeal a second time. In August of the same year, the Supreme People's Court held that there was no violation of the Constitution during the trial at the first instance and the appeals court, and the Supreme Court ruled to uphold the death sentence. Miyuki was then transferred to Hiroshima Prison to serve her sentence, which is a special prison for death row inmates. The incident later caused a stir in public opinion when reported by the press. People could not believe that with Miyuki's ordinary appearance, she had made so many men fall head over heels in love. People could not believe that a woman with an ordinary appearance could be so cruel. A manga artist adapted Miyuki's story into a manga. Ueda Miyuki's popularity also increased rapidly. By early 2023, she had been in Hiroshima prison for 6 years. That year, the number of death row inmates in Hiroshima prison had reached 105. On January 14, 2023, the incident occurred in Hiroshima prison. Miyuki was 50 years old that year. While she was eating, she was said to have choked on her food and suddenly fell to the ground. Some staff members, after witnessing the situation, immediately rushed over and tried to save her, but Miyuki could not be saved and died in prison. No remains of Miyuki were found. The Japanese Ministry of Justice said that this was a sudden accident. However, it is worth noting that in the 4 days before the incident, Ueda Miyuki also choked once while eating and was taken to the emergency room in time. She almost lost her life that time. After being treated, she was returned to prison. Unexpectedly, after only 4 days, this incident happened again. This inevitably makes many people wonder if she really ate the food and choked because she was not careful. Or is there another secret hidden behind it? The truth about the incident is probably known only to her. And you, what do you think about the incident that shocked Japan and the sentence for Miyuki? Let's share your thoughts in the comments section. And don't forget, before leaving, leave a like and subscribe to the channel to continue updating the most thrilling and attractive cases on the channel.